Mary, one of our viewers, has written in and said, "Good morning all. The story, according to me, is not Donald Trump. The story is the BBC. The BBC have been proven to have put a documentary out there as the truth when it was not the truth. They cannot be trusted. Lots of people have thought this in the past, but now there's evidence of it." Is she right?
Well, I suppose quite a lot of people will be feeling like that. At first, it looked as though Donald Trump was just going to demand an apology from the BBC and he was just threatening to sue to scare them into making that apology that he wanted. It now looks very much as though he is totally serious about suing. And Mary and probably other UK watchers of both the BBC and GB News will probably be relatively sympathetic to the president. There are officials at the BBC who believe that what they did was wrong, but the statement from Samir Shah, the chair, apologising, was quite sort of mealy-mouthed. There was an apology there, but he said that the BBC is not institutionally biased. Keir Starmer has actually said the same thing. He said that he doesn't believe that the BBC is institutionally biased. I wonder if the Prime Minister will come to regret saying that through his spokesman, because that report from Michael Prescott looking into allegations of BBC bias, that comes to the conclusion that the BBC is actually institutionally biased. Samir Shah has said that that report is wrong. Keir Starmer at the moment seems to be aligning himself with Samir Shah, but I wonder if he'll come to regret that. The Prime Minister has spent most of this year trying to cosy up to Donald Trump to try and get various deals over the line. And this will, I think, cause a rupture in relationships between the UK and the US. It has really, really angered Donald Trump. You can see his fury with the BBC in some of those clips in that world-exclusive interview with Bev Turner. And if Prime Minister Starmer is considering aligning himself with the BBC, well, that could cause a bit of friction.
Yeah, where does it leave politicians? Because it's certainly, I mean, the Lib Dems have been very vocal about it, Ed Davey particularly in PMQs. I mean, basically saying he wants the Prime Minister to intervene to make sure the BBC does not get sued. But if it was any other organisation, it would be. So is it sort of saying, I know he's saying it's because we all pay for the BBC, but is he effectively trying to give the BBC a free pass?
Well, and I think this is going to be a really, really difficult question for the Prime Minister. He is caught between a rock and a hard place here, because on the one hand, the BBC is an important institution. All politicians are clear on that. As you say there, the taxpayer, if Donald Trump were to sue, would probably bear the brunt of the cost. But on the other hand, the whole point of the BBC is that it is separate from the government. It is a public service broadcaster, but it isn't a state broadcaster. And if the Prime Minister was seen to intervene, was seen to sort of take the side of the BBC and give the BBC some sort of special treatment over other TV channels, well, that would really, really anger the President and might actually end up angering quite a lot of voters. The other big question, of course, is the renewal of the licence fee, which is on the table at the moment. The charter comes to an end in 2027, and at that point, a decision will have to be made about how the BBC is funded going forwards. Now, Nadine Dorries, the previous Conservative Culture Secretary, who's now defected to Reform, said when the last charter was renewed that she thought that should be the very last time that the BBC is funded in the way it is, i.e. through taxpayer money. So there is a big question about the future funding model of the BBC, and the fact that these huge allegations of bias and this extraordinary threat to sue from the President of the United States have all come at this time makes life very, very difficult, both for the BBC and actually for Keir Starmer, who's going to be really caught on this question.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. When you think of the last time they met and Keir Starmer gave him the official King's sort of invitation for a second visit, it was, I mean, he was really sycophantic. You have to, I mean, it was creepy almost. I can't see how he'd handle the next interview with President Trump, or meeting with President Trump, because President Trump has been so critical now of practically everything going on in the UK.
Well, absolutely. I mean, I was astonished really at the difference. I was presenting when that state visit was happening between Donald Trump and Keir Starmer were speaking at that press conference, and actually Keir Starmer was, as you say, very, very sycophantic. At one point, he was sort of stroking Donald Trump's back. He picked up his papers for him when they were on the floor. And Donald Trump was pretty complimentary about the UK. Well, that seems to have totally changed. In that interview, we know that the president sort of might say one thing one day, another thing another day, and it seems as though his opinion on the United Kingdom has drastically changed. When Bev Turner asked the president in another bit of that interview, she said that Europe is in the doldrums, the UK is in the doldrums, and he absolutely agreed. He said, I have some fondness for the United Kingdom, my mother is Scottish, but, you know, essentially you're doing everything wrong, was what he was saying. And then he had a go at Sadiq Khan, obviously a close ally of Keir Starmer's. So I think that actually this really couldn't be worse for Keir Starmer. He must be so furious with the BBC, because I think this will put some serious strain on that very important relationship between the UK and the US. OK. Olivia, thank you very much indeed. Fascinating.
It is astonishing how the snowball rolls and gathers more snow, isn't it?
It is. You have to say, for the government at the moment, it's every day is bringing something worse, which is, I mean, honestly, they must be tearing their hair out.
Big tech has turned your phone into a surveillance device, harvesting your data, tracking your location, and selling your information to corporations. Unplugged built the upphone to fight back. It's the only smartphone with hardware-level privacy protection, completely blocking data harvesting at the source. It features a physical kill switch that cuts power instantly when you want to go dark, giving you control big tech took away. Unplugged puts privacy and sovereignty first. The upphone is built to British standards, designed to keep your data in your hands, with independent servers, its own app center, and no corporate gatekeepers. You can access what you choose. No censorship, no app bans, just freedom. Everyone else is playing by big tech's rules. Unplugged rewrote them. The upphone runs on an operating system with 0 backdoors and a firewall that blocks thousands of tracking attempts every single day. The upphone includes a host of unique security features. The device can be set to have its memory wiped regularly, and if someone demands your PIN code, well, you can give them a false PIN that will wipe the device. It's called emergency reset. Privacy isn't a feature with Unplugged, it is the foundation. To get yours today, click the link in the description now.
All boils down, as we talked to you the other day about, has he got a case?
Well, I think he does. And I seem to be in a minority. I should say I'm a specialist UK media lawyer, but I have worked on American defamation cases. And because this is so fascinating, I've done some research. Now, I think he does have a good case. I don't know how much detail you want me to go into. I've sent over a note to your team. But the BBC, in rejecting first of all, they say they won't pay damages, and the reason they say they won't pay damages is because they don't think that Donald Trump has a viable claim in the US. Now, they've set out the 5 reasons why they don't think there is a viable claim in the US. Now, I can summarise them a little bit like Shania Twain, who said, "They don't impress me much. They don't impress me much." And the fact is that I think the BBC is going to be tested, because it does seem that Donald Trump is going to sue. So we'll find out who's right, Donald Trump's lawyers or the BBC lawyers. As I say, I'm in your hands as to whether you want me to deal with 1 or 2 or more of the reasons why the BBC have said that Donald Trump's libel claim will fail.
Well, many people who are supportive of the BBC on this say that it comes down to reputation. He'd have to prove reputational damage. And in the wider context of his entire speech and his conduct that day, his reputation on that day was not good. So that he would have trouble proving reputational damage, because then the context of what he said would be brought in.
Well, in the UK, Anne, the requirement is for him to show serious harm to his reputation. But in America, it's only got to show some harm to his reputation. Now, let's go back to what the BBC has admitted about the effect of the edited speech. Let me just pull this up. So this is what the BBC has admitted. The edit gave the mistaken impression that President Trump had made a direct call for violent action. Okay, so let's pause a minute. So that's the presidential candidate for America, calling apparently for violent action on Capitol Hill. And you may also remember that 5 people died during that violent action. So I ask rhetorically, a Florida jury, a staunch Republican state, Donald Trump's own state, are they going to accept that the BBC caused no reputational damage to Donald Trump by accusing him, by doctoring an edit of making a direct call for violent action? I just cannot see the BBC going to persuade anyone that that caused no reputation damage to Donald Trump. It only has to show some damage.